"Grandma, don't go home tonight." That's what she whispered, right up against my ear, so soft I almost thought I imagined it. But I felt her little hand tremble in mine when she said it, and that's what told me she meant it. I pulled back, looked her dead in the eye. "What you say, baby?" Her lips were quivering, eyes dart into the door like somebody was listening. "Don't go home tonight," she said again, barely moving her mouth. Then she looked down, just started crying. Now, I'm standing there in my Sunday coat, purse still hanging off my arm, casserole dish in my hand, and my heart start beatin' like I done swallowed a drum. Because see, my granddaughter don't talk like that. She's only 10. Bright little thing, always hummin' to herself, always drawin' little pictures of the family. But that day, she looked scared of something. Scared for me. And I knew right then, something was wrong at my house. I set the dish down slow, trying not to show it on my face. "You mean, you don't want Grandma to leave yet, huh? You want me to stay a little longer?" She shook her head hard. "No, Grandma. Don't go home tonight. Please." I swear, the way she said please, it cracked something in me. I turned toward the kitchen, where my daughter was washing dishes, laughing on the phone with somebody. Everything seemed normal. But that child's words, they hung in the air like smoke. So I waited. Watched. Tried to catch her eye again, but she just kept fidgeting with her dress, pulling at the sleeves like she wanted to disappear. My mind was racing. Had somebody broken into my house? Was there something going on she overheard? Or maybe my daughter told her something she wasn't supposed to repeat. See, I've been staying with my daughter, Tasha, on and off since my hip surgery last year. Helping her with the kids, cooking, doing what I could. But I still had my own place, a little blue house over on Magnolia Street, been mine for 32 years. My husband and I bought it back when times were good. After he passed, it was just me and the creaking walls and my memories. And I been proud of that house. Paid it off myself. Kept it spotless. My name the only one on the deed. But lately, Tasha been acting funny about it. Little side comments, "Mama, you too old to be staying there by yourself," or if something happened to you, that house just sitting there empty. She'd laugh when she said it, but I could feel something else under it. Still, I brushed it off. That's my baby. I raised her better than that. But when my granddaughter said those words, "Don't go home tonight," every bone in my body told me, this ain't no game. I walked into the kitchen. "Tasha," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You been by my house lately?" She looked up, phone still to her ear. "What?" "No, Mama, why?" "No reason," I said, picking up a paper towel to dry my hands, just watching her. Just wondering. She narrowed her eyes, like she knew I was diggin'. "Everything okay?" I said. "Everything fine." But my heart wouldn't settle. That child kept peeking around the corner, eyes wide, like she wanted to warn me again but couldn't. So when Tasha went upstairs to fold laundry, I leaned down and whispered, "Baby, what's wrong? Why you don't want Grandma go home?" She shook her head. "I can't say. Mama'll get mad." "Get mad about what?" She pressed her lips tight. "Just, don't go. Please. Not tonight." Now, I done seen enough in my life to know when a child's carryin' a secret. And this one, it was heavy. That's when I decided I wasn't going home. Not yet. I called my neighbor, Miss Dorleen, told her I might be coming late, or maybe not at all. Asked if she'd keep an eye on the porch light for me. She said sure, and I hung up. But even as I tried to act normal, I could feel something creeping up my spine, that same sense I used to get when my husband would come home drunk, right before the storm hit. That knowing that something ugly was waiting. Tasha came back downstairs, still scrolling on her phone, and I asked her casual, "You mind if I stay here tonight? I ain't feeling too steady." She hesitated just a second too long. Then she smiled. "Sure, Mama. Whatever makes you comfortable." But that smile, it didn't reach her eyes. I laid awake that night on the pull-out couch. Couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me jump. I kept thinking about my granddaughter's face, her little voice whispering, "Don't go home." Round about midnight, I heard the back door close. Soft, like somebody trying not to wake nobody. Then I heard voices outside. I crept to the window, pulled the curtain just enough to peek. There was Tasha, my own daughter, out there talking to some man by my car. He had a hood up, hands in his pockets, real close to her face. They was whisperin', arguin' quiet. I couldn't catch the words, but her hands were moving fast, and his head kept shaking no. Then she handed him something, a small envelope. He looked at it, nodded once, and walked off toward the street. She stood there for a long time, looking around like she was making sure nobody saw. Then she went back inside. I backed away from the window, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. What was she doing? Who was that man? And what could possibly make my sweet granddaughter so scared she had to warn me not to go home? I didn't sleep a wink. Just laid there, watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling till morning. When the sun came up, I acted like nothing happened. Made breakfast, took the kids to school, smiled like everything was fine. But inside, I was shaking. And when I went to get my purse to leave, I noticed something. My house keys, the ones I always keep in the front pocket, they were gone. I froze right there by the door. "Tasha," I called, trying to sound calm. "You see my keys anywhere?" She glanced up from the kitchen table, that same fake smile. "No, Mama. You probably just misplaced them again." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But my gut told me different. I walked out that house with a smile on my face and a storm brewing in my chest. And all I could hear, echoing in my mind, was that little voice saying again and again, "Grandma, don't go home tonight. If you're listening to me right now, please don't go anywhere. Like, subscribe, and share this story, because baby, this is only the beginning." I sat in my car for a good 10 minutes before even putting the key in the ignition. Except I couldn't. Because my keys, the ones I'd had on that same gold ring for over 30 years, were gone. I checked my purse again, then the cup holder, then my pockets. Nothing. It wasn't like me to lose them. I keep my life in order. I got a little hook by the door for my purse, one by the fridge for my keys. That's how I've always done it, ever since my husband passed. Because if I don't keep my things in their place, I feel like I start coming apart too. But that morning, my order had already been touched. So I used my spare key from the glove compartment, thank the Lord I kept that one hidden, and drove toward Magnolia Street. The closer I got, the more wrong everything started to feel. You know that strange quiet the neighborhood gets when something's off? Like the air heavy, the birds quiet, like even they don't want to say nothing? That's what it felt like. When I turned onto my block, my chest got tight. Because my porch light, the one I told Miss Darlene to keep an eye on, was off. I always leave that porch light on. Always. I parked across the street, just sitting there, engine humming. My little blue house looked fine from the outside, but something in my bones said don't go in there yet. Still. I had to know. I grabbed my bag and crossed the street. The air smelled strange, like somebody had been burning a candle inside, but not the kind I'd use. It was too sweet, like syrup covering something sour. I unlocked the front door slow, pushing it open just enough to peek inside. Everything looked the same. Couch still neat. My throw blanket folded just how I left it. TV remote sitting in the little basket by the lamp. But the feel of the house, it wasn't mine. It felt like somebody else had been walking through it while I was gone. I took a few steps in, my shoes creaking on the wood. "Hello?" I called out, real quiet. No answer. I walked through the living room, then the kitchen. Dishes all in their place, nothing broken. I even opened the fridge, my milk, my leftovers, everything there. But then I noticed something by the window. The curtain, the left one, had been moved. Not open, just touched. I could tell because the tie-back wasn't looped the way I do it. I make a little twist in mine, neat and tight. This one was sloppy, like somebody ain't care. I felt that chill again. So I checked the back door. It was locked, but the lock had fresh scratches around it. Tiny ones, like somebody tried to open it before thinking better of it. Now, let me tell you something about living alone, you learn to notice. You know when your chair's been moved 2 inches, or when somebody leaned on your counter. And every corner of that house was screaming to me, you ain't been alone here. I went to my bedroom next. My heart was racing, but my feet kept moving like they had their own mind. And soon as I opened that door, I stopped cold. My jewelry box was sitting crooked on the dresser. I never leave it like that. I opened it, and sure enough, 2 things missing. My wedding ring, and the little gold locket my mama gave me before she passed. That locket's the only thing I still got of her. She said, keep it close, baby. It'll protect you when I can't. And now it was gone. I just stood there, staring at that empty spot, feeling like the air got knocked out of me. I didn't even realize I was crying until the tears started hitting my hands. Then I heard a sound. Out front. Car door slamming. I froze, wiped my face, and went to the window. A white SUV had just pulled up in my driveway. And when the driver's door opened, I saw who it was. Tasha. She got out real calm, like she had every right to be there. Walked up to my porch with that same fake smile she'd been wearing last night. For a second, I almost opened the door. But something told me not to. So I backed up into the hallway, peeking through the crack in the curtain. She knocked, waiting just a few seconds before taking out a key, my key, and letting herself in. Ma, she called. You here? I stepped back, heart pounding. She was in my house. Walking around like it was hers. I heard her footsteps in the kitchen, the fridge door opening, a glass setting down on the counter. Then she called again, Ma, you home? I didn't answer. She moved toward the bedroom, and I ducked into the hallway closet, barely breathing. I could see her shadow through the crack, moving slow, looking around. She picked up the jewelry box, closed it, and then, Lord help me, she started smiling. That's when I realized she knew. She knew what was gone. She knew who took it. And she was checking if I'd noticed. I wanted to jump out right then, grab her, ask her why. But something in me said, wait. Watch first. So I did. She pulled out her phone, dialed someone, whispering, yeah. I'm here now. Nah, she ain't been home yet. But it's all ready. All ready for what? She paused, listening. No, she don't suspect nothing. Don't worry, it's handled. Then she hung up, set the phone down, and took one long look around the room. Bye, Mama, she said under her breath, like it was some kind of goodbye. Then she left. I didn't move for a long time after that. My knees were shaking, my breath shallow. When I finally stepped out the closet, the house felt even colder. I sat down on my bed, that jewelry box in my hands, and I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't just about money. Or my house. This was personal. And my sweet little granddaughter, she'd seen something. She'd heard something. That's why she told me not to come home. I walked to the window, watching my daughter drive off, my reflection looking back at me, tired, hurt, but not broken. I whispered to myself, you raised her. You taught her better than this. So what went wrong? And deep down, I already knew, sometimes the devil don't come in a stranger. Sometimes it's your own blood, wearing your smile. That night, I didn't go back to Tasha's. I didn't go nowhere. I locked every door, turned off every light, and sat right there in the dark, thinking. And when my phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m., a number I didn't recognize, I almost didn't answer. But I did. And the voice on the other end? It wasn't my daughter. It was a man. Calm. Low. Like he knew me. He said, I think you should know, somebody's trying to sell your house. Then he hung up. I didn't sleep that night either. Because right then, I knew the warning wasn't about fear. It was about betrayal. When that man's voice cut off, I just sat there holding the phone like it was a snake that had hissed my name. Somebody's trying to sell your house. You don't say something like that and just hang up. You don't drop a bomb in a woman's lap and vanish into silence. I called back right away, but the number said unavailable. I sat there in the dark, staring at the window, watching the streetlight flicker across my curtains. My stomach felt heavy, not like fear, but like shame. Because deep down, I already knew who that somebody was. I tried to tell myself I was wrong. Maybe it was a scam. Maybe the man got the wrong number. But that voice, that calm, low voice, it wasn't joking. It was too steady. Too sure. So I pulled out my old showbox of papers, the one I keep under the bed. My house deed, the tax receipts, all of it. Still there. My name, Gloria May Daniels, printed clear as day. Nobody could sell that house but me. But I couldn't shake it. I made a pot of coffee, even though it was close to midnight, and sat down at the kitchen table. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen earlier. A folder, tan, a little bent, sitting under the fruit bowl. Now I don't leave paperwork on my table. I like my house neat, you hear me? So I pulled it out and opened it. And there it was. A flyer for a local real estate company. Magnolia Properties, we buy as-is homes fast. And stapled to it, my address. Not printed, written in my daughter's handwriting. I stared at it so long the words started to blur. My hands were shaking. I felt hot all over, then cold. My own child. My baby girl. You spend your whole life raising 'em, feeding 'em, pryin' over 'em, and one day, they look you dead in the face and steal from you like you a stranger. I picked up the phone, dialed her number. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. Hey mama, her voice said, all sweet and easy. Leave a message. I took a deep breath. Tasha, I said. We need to talk. Call me soon. Hung up. Then I called my granddaughter's little flip phone, the one I bought her for emergencies. She answered on the second ring, whispering, Grandma? Hey baby, I said, keeping my voice soft. You okay? Yeah. Mama's sleep. You went home? I did, I said. And I need you to tell me something. What you meant yesterday when you said don't go home? She went quiet. I could hear her breathin', real small. Then she said, Grandma, I heard Mama talking to a man. They said your name. They said, papers. Papers? And the man said you don't know nothing yet, but soon you will. Then Mama told him, just make it look like she signed it. My whole body went numb. Baby, I whispered, you did real good telling me that. Don't you tell nobody else you said this, okay? Okay, Grandma. I love you. I love you too. Then I hung up before she could say more, 'cause if I'd kept talking, I would have broken down right there. Next morning, I drove to the courthouse. My hair wasn't done, didn't even put on lipstick, just threw on my coat and left. I told the clerk I needed to check if any property transfer papers had been filed under my name. She looked it up on that big old computer, clicking away, then said, yes, looks like something was submitted 2 days ago, still under review. I felt my knees go weak. Can I see it? She printed it out, slid it across the counter. Right there on the line, Gloria M. Daniels. My name. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. Somebody had traced it, messy and uneven, like a bad forgery from a TV movie. I asked, who filed it? She looked back at the screen. Says, Natasha Green. Tasha's name. My daughter's. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. I must have looked dizzy, 'cause the clerk leaned forward. You okay? I nodded, slid the paper back. I'm fine, baby. Thank you. But when I walked out that courthouse, I wasn't fine. I was something else entirely. You ever had the kind of anger that don't make you shout, don't make you cry, just silences you? Like it drains all the noise from the world until the only sound you hear is your own heartbeat. That's where I was. I drove straight to the bank. Told them to freeze any joint accounts, check my savings, my mortgage file, anything with my name. The teller, bless her heart, said, Miss Daniels, there was an inquiry on your account yesterday. From who? She looked uneasy. Someone claiming to be your daughter. She had a letter of authorization. I said, and you gave her access? She shook her head fast. No, we couldn't verify it. But she sure tried. When I got back home, I didn't even take my coat off. I just sat on the couch staring at the floor. Every memory started hitting me, her 5th birthday party, her graduation, the day she gave birth to my first grandbaby. All them times I thought we was close. Thought I'd done right by her. I remembered the first time she ever lied to me. She was maybe 7, said she ain't break my favorite teacup, even though she had the glue all over her fingers. I forgave her quick, told myself she was just a child. Now she was a grown woman, and the lies done got sharper. I don't know how long I sat there before I heard it, that same sweet ringtone I set years ago when my husband was still alive. It was Tasha calling. I picked up, voice steady. "Hey, baby." She sounded bright. "Hey, Mama. You okay? I tried calling earlier." I was busy." "Oh, okay. You home?" "I am." Pause. Then her tone shifted. "You been to the courthouse?" The way she said it made my skin prickle. "What make you ask that?" "Just wondering. You know how you get when something's stressing you. I didn't want you running around getting all upset over paperwork or something. Paperwork?" I repeated slow. She chuckled, fake, light. "Mama, you always so suspicious." I smiled into the phone though she couldn't see it. "You right. But see, when your own daughter starts signing her mama's name on government papers, suspicion kinda comes natural." Silence. Long cold. Then she whispered, "You talked to somebody, didn't you?" "I talked to plenty of people, Tasha." "Who told you?" "That ain't important. What's important is why." Her voice cracked just a little, like she wasn't ready to lie yet but didn't know how to tell the truth. "Mema, I was just, you don't understand. You sitting on that old house, and you don't even use half of it. I was trying to make things easier." "For who? You or me?" She didn't answer. Then she said, "I gotta go. We'll talk later." And hung up. I sat there listening to the dial tone, feeling like I'd been dropped into a hole with no bottom. But I wasn't done. If she thought I was just some old woman she could trick, she forgot who raised her. So I pulled out my notebook, wrote down every detail, the man's call, the flyer, the courthouse, the bank. And then I wrote one more line, underlined it twice. Find the man. That night, the phone rang again. Same voice. Calm. Slow. He said, "Mrs. Daniels, they're meeting tomorrow. Magnolia Cafe. 2 p.m. Who? Click. Line dead. I sat there, the sound of the clock ticking louder and louder. And all I could think was, my own daughter, sitting across from strangers, planning to sell the roof I built with my hands. And tomorrow, I'd see it with my own eyes. I didn't sleep again that night. I just sat at my kitchen table with the lights low, that phone sitting right there beside my coffee cup like it might bite me if I looked away. Magnolia Cafe. 2 o'clock. That's what the man said. And Lord knows I almost talked myself out of going. But curiosity's a kind of ache when you're a mama. You tell yourself you don't want to see what hurts, but you need to see it, just to know what broke. By 1:15, I was already parked 2 blocks away from the cafe. I'd put on my Sunday coat, tied my scarf low, and told myself to keep my head down. Magnolia Cafe ain't big, just one of them old corner spots with the smell of biscuits and butter floating out the door. I used to take Tasha there when she was little, get her pancakes with extra syrup. Funny how places can hold memories that turn sour overnight. I sat in my car watching through the window. 2 men were already inside. One of them had on a grey suit, looking too sharp for a Tuesday. The other wore a hoodie and kept his cap low. Then, right on time, there she came. Tasha. My daughter. My blood. Walking in like she owned the world. She looked good, I won't lie, hair done, nice blouse, big purse on her shoulder. But the way she carried herself. It wasn't my Tasha. She had that look of someone playing a part, confident, but watching who's watching her. I leaned forward, heart beaten so hard I could hear it. She sat down with the man in the grey suit. He smiled, slid a folder across the table. Now I couldn't hear a word from the car, but I know the language of deals and lies. Her fingers started tapping the table the way they used to when she got nervous. She flipped through papers, nodded in here and there, then pulled something from her bag, an envelope. The man looked pleased. Too pleased. I felt my throat tighten. Then the door opened again, and that's when I saw him. The man from the other night. The one I'd seen outside my house with Tasha. He walked in slow, like he knew he wasn't supposed to be there but couldn't help himself. He leaned down to whisper in her ear. She stiffened, shook her head, whispered back fast. The man in the grey suit didn't like it. He slammed his palm on the table, and I saw my daughter flinch. That's when I had enough. I grabbed my purse and stepped out that car. I ain't think about what I was gonna say or how it'd end. I just knew I wasn't letting strangers write the last page of my story. When I pushed through that cafe door, the bell jingled, and every head turned. Tasha's eyes went wide like she'd seen a ghost. "Well," I said, keeping my voice calm, "don't you all look cozy?" "Mema," she stammered, standing up too fast. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, I was just in the neighborhood," I said, settling my purse on the chair next to her. "Figured I'd grab me a coffee. But now that I'm here, maybe y'all can tell me what's going on with my house." The man in the suit cleared his throat. "This a private meeting, I turned slow and gave him a look my mama used to give me when I forgot my manners. "Sweetheart, when my name's on the deed, there ain't nothing private about it." He blinked, looking to Tasha for help. "Mema, please, not here," she hissed. But I wasn't moving. I been real patient, Tasha. Real quiet. But you sitting here signing papers with my name on 'em, meeting strange men, and telling your little girl to keep secrets from me, now you can tell me the truth. The cafe had gone silent. Even the waitress stopped refilling cups. Tasha rubbed her forehead, whispering, "You don't understand, Mema. You don't." "Then help me," I said, voice breaking. "Help me understand why my baby would steal from me." Her lips started trembling. "It ain't like that. I wasn't stealing. I was trying to fix things." "Fix what?" She looked down. "The money, Mama. The bills, the kids. I been drowning. You got that house sitting there, big, empty, paid off, and I thought maybe if we sold it, just for a while, I could start fresh. Get out of debt." I stared at her, heart twisting. "So you forged my name?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "I was gonna tell you. I just needed it to go through first." The man in the grey suit spoke up then, voice slick like oil. "Mrs. Daniels, everything can be handled peacefully. We just need your confirmation signature and we can finalize." "Finalize what?" I cut him off. "You think I'm gonna let you swindle me out of my own home? Not today, baby." He leaned back, smirking. "Well, according to this paperwork, your daughter already represents the estate." "Estate?" I snapped. "Ain't nobody dead here but your decency." The waitress gasped, covering her mouth, and the man in the hoodie, the one from my porch, started inching toward the door. I turned to him. "You stay right there, mister. You the one been lurking round my house?" He looked spooked, muttered something about just being a runner for the paperwork, and bolted out the door before anybody could stop him. Tasha sank back in her chair, whispering, "Mama, please don't make a scene." "Oh, baby, the scene's already made." I took that folder from the table and flipped it open. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "You see this signature? It ain't mine. The clerk saw it. The bank saw it. You can't undo that kind of wrong, Tasha. Not with tears, not with excuses." She covered her face, sobbing. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Mama. I thought you'd understand." I looked at her for a long time. "You thought I'd understand you trying to erase me while I'm still breathing?" Her whole body crumpled. The man in the grey suit stood up, adjusting his tie. "I think I'll leave you ladies to it." "Good idea," I said. "And don't let me catch you on Magnolia Street again." He walked out quick, glancing back once like he'd tangled with the wrong kind of storm. When it was just me and Tasha, I sat down across from her. The anger was still there, but beneath it was something heavier, grief. I reached across the table and touched her hand. "You my child, Tasha. You the one I prayed over, nursed through fever, watched walk across that stage. You had every piece of my love. So why couldn't you just ask me?" She shook her head, tears falling fast. "Because I knew you'd say no. And I needed help now, not later. I didn't think you'd lose so much sleep over that house. That house is me, I whispered. It's your daddy, your childhood, every struggle I ever survived. It's the only thing that never left me. And you were willing to trade it for a quick fix. She tried to speak, but her voice broke into a sob. I stood up slow. You go on home, baby. Take care of them kids. But this conversation ain't done. Not by a long shot. She nodded, eyes down, and I walked out that cafe into the cool afternoon air. The wind hit my face, and for the first time in days, I felt something like clarity. Painful clarity. I unlocked my car and sat there, watching her through the window. She was still sitting at the table, crying into her hands. And I wanted to forgive her. I really did. But something in my gut said this wasn't over. Because when I looked up at the cafe's reflection in the glass, I saw a figure standing across the street, watching. That same man in the grey suit. Phone to his ear. Staring right at me. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just my daughter's doing. There was somebody else behind it. Somebody who wanted that house bad enough to use her to get it. I didn't go straight home after the cafe. I drove around for near 2 hours, just letting the roads wind me somewhere my mind could catch up. I passed the church, the high school, the park where Tasha used to play double dutch. Every corner felt heavy, like the memories themselves were looking at me with pity. When I finally pulled up to my house, the porch light was still on. I sat in the car a long time before I could get out. Everything inside me felt hollow, anger, heartbreak, disbelief, all fighting to take turns. That night, I didn't touch no dinner. Just made me a cup of tea, sat at the kitchen table again, and stared at the old photo of me and Tasha. She was about 8, missing her front tooth, smilling like she owned the sun. How do you go from that, to this? My phone buzzed round midnight. A number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Mrs. Daniels, a man's voice said. This is. I know who this is. I cut him off. You the snake in the grey suit. He chuckled, low and nasty. Now, there's no need for name-calling, I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave things on bad terms at the cafe. I gripped the phone tighter. Bad terms? You tried to steal my home, you thinking we could ever be on good terms? He sighed, all smooth and collected. That house isn't just a home, Mrs. Daniels. It's equity. Opportunity. Something your daughter understood long before you did. You don't talk about my daughter, I snapped. Oh, I'll talk about her all day if I want, he said. Because she came to me. She needed money. She was desperate. You know what desperation does to a person, right? I stayed silent. I didn't force her, he went on. She signed those papers on her own. She just needed someone to speed things along. Someone who could turn that dusty old deed into a real paycheck. You preyed on her, I said quietly. He chuckled again. I helped her. You're the one who left her to struggle. That hit me like a slap. You listen here, I said, my voice shaking but strong. You don't know nothing 'bout what I done for that girl. You don't know the nights I stayed up pryin' she'd find peace, the money I scraped together when she couldn't pay rent, the way I held her hand when she buried that no-good husband of hers. So don't you dare act like I abandoned her. He paused, then said, real slow, then maybe you should have taught her better about loyalty. And just like that, he hung up. I sat there with the dial tone humming in my ear, feeling that old ache settle deep in my chest. I wanted to call Tasha right then, scream or cry or both, but I didn't. Instead, I opened my laptop and started looking him up. Business cards don't lie, his name was Derek Lane. Real estate consultant. Which, in plain talk, means, he finds folks in trouble, dangles promises, and takes everything when they fall for it. I found his face on a website, clean-cut, talking about empowering families to reclaim generational wealth. That made me laugh out loud. That man didn't empower nobody but his own pockets. By 2 a.m., I'd gone through 3 articles, 2 lawsuits, and 1 long comment thread full of angry people who'd lost their homes. Same pattern every time. He found someone desperate, offered help, then took control of their assets. And now my daughter was his next meal. Next morning, I drove over to Tasha's. Her kids were at school, thank the Lord, so it was just her and me. She opened the door looking tired, eyes red from crying. "Mema," she said soft, "I didn't think you'd come by." "Why wouldn't I?" I said. "You think I'm done fightin' for you?" She stepped aside, letting me in. The place was messy, papers everywhere, laundry piled high, bills on the counter. "Tasha," I said, picking one envelope up, "you ain't told me it was this bad." She looked away. "I didn't wanna worry you. Baby, that's what mother's for." She sank onto the couch, pulling her knees up. "He said he could fix everything, Mama. Said he knew a way to get a lump sum fast." I didn't ask questions, I just wanted it all to stop. The calls, the threats, the past due notices. "And what he want in return?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just my signature. On my house." She nodded, whispering, "He said it was temporary. Just until the sale went through. Said I'd get a big cut, enough to pay off my debts, maybe even buy you something nice." I felt my throat close. "Buy me something? Girl, you trying to buy me with the roof over my own head?" She started crying again. "I know how it sounds, Mama, but he was so convincing. He showed me all this paperwork, these other clients. Said he worked with the city, said he could leverage what we had." I believed him. I sat beside her, taking her hand. "And what about that man in the hoodie? The one that ran out the cafe?" She froze. "That's his assistant. He's the one who dropped off the papers. Derek said he just handles logistics." "Baby," I said, squeezing her hand, "that man ain't handling logistics. He handling you. Both of 'em." She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but she didn't have the strength. "I can fix this," I said. "I still got friends at the county office. They'll help me stop that transfer." Tasha sniffed, whipping her nose. "Mama, it's too late. He said the deal's already in escrow." My stomach dropped. "Escrow? When?" She whispered. "He said he'd finalize it Friday." It was Wednesday. 2 days. I stood up, heart pounding. "You give me every piece of paper he gave you. Every contract, every receipt, every email." She hurried to the table, gathering a mess of folders and crumpled pages. My hands shook as I stuffed them into my purse. "Mema, what you gon' do?" she asked. "I'm gon' do what you shoulda done, fight." When I walked out that door, I didn't look back. My heart was breaking, but there was fire behind it. That night, I took all them papers to my friend Nadine. She used to work down at the clerk's office. She looked through every page, clicking her tongue. "Amham," she said finally, "this man's slick. He forged a transfer authorization and buried it under a fake title change. But look here," he slipped up. "Where?" I leaned closer. "Here," she said, tap in a box on the page. "He didn't file your notarized consent yet. That means if you file a fraud claim before Friday, you can freeze the sale." I exhaled, tears pricking my eyes. "Thank you, Lord." Nadine smiled. "Girl, you move quick tomorrow. Don't give him time to react. And don't trust nobody but me." I nodded. When I got home, I locked my doors, double-checked the windows, and sat down in the dark with a glass of water. I wanted to believe it'd be that easy. File the claim, stop the sale, protect what's mine. But something deep in me kept whispering that Derek Lane wasn't done yet. And when I finally went to bed, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a picture message. A photo of me sitting in my car outside Tasha's house earlier that day. And below it, a message. "You shouldn't have gotten involved, Mrs. Daniels." I didn't move for a long time after that message came through. Just sat there staring at my phone, heart beating so loud I could hear it in my ears. The picture was clear, me sitting in my car, one hand on the steering wheel, my face turned halfway toward the window. You could even see the church cross reflecting in the glass. Somebody had been close. Real close. I put the phone down slow, like it might explode if I touched it too hard. Then I locked every door again, checked the curtains, checked the backyard light. Nothing. Just shadows and silence. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I ain't gonna lie, Fear hit me that night harder than I expected. Not the kind that makes you scream or run, but the quiet kind that seeps in and stays. That kind that makes you whisper to yourself just to hear another voice in the room. I sat at the kitchen table, knees pulled tight, talking low to the Lord. God, I said, I don't know what you're trying to show me, but please don't let this man win. Not over me. Not over my child. My eyes wandered to the old family Bible sitting on the counter. I'd had it since I was 19. My mama gave it to me when I left Mississippi, told me, keep it near, it'll keep you near him. So I pulled it close, ran my hand over that worn leather cover, and whispered, keep us safe, Mama. The clock ticked loud in the stillness. Every creak in the house made my skin jump. I couldn't sleep, so I just sat there till morning. By the time the sun came up, the fear had turned into something else, anger. I looked in the mirror, and the woman staring back at me wasn't scared no more. She looked tired, yes, eyes red, hair messy, but there was steel in her face. I'm done shaking, I told my reflection. That day, I went straight down to the courthouse with Nadine's papers. Filed the fraud claim, stamped, sealed, signed. The clerk said, this'll freeze the sale for investigation. I said, good. Let it freeze till hell thaws out. On the way home, my phone buzzed again. No number this time, just a blocked call. I didn't answer. But a voicemail came through a minute later. It was Tasha. Her voice was low, trembling. Mama, he's mad. Derek's mad. He came by the house this morning. Said you're trying to ruin him. Said he gon. She stopped herself. Please, just stay home, lock your doors. Don't talk to nobody. I'll come by later. I replayed that voicemail 3 times, each time catching something new in her tone. Guilt, fear, maybe even protectiveness. She was scared too. I called her right back, but it went straight to voicemail. By noon, the sky had gone grey. A storm was brewing, heavy clouds stacking up like dirty cotton. I made a pot of coffee and sat by the window, watching the trees sway. Then I saw a black car rolling slow down the street. Windows tinted. Moving too slow to be lost. It stopped 2 houses down, then rolled forward again, passing my house once, twice. I ducked behind the curtain, heart thumping. You ever feel like somebody's eyes are on you even when you can't see 'em? That's what it felt like, thick air, like danger had a smell. I picked up my phone, called Nadine. She answered quick, you okay? I think they watching my house, I whispered. Stay calm, she said. You filed that paperwork. They know they losin'. This just them trying to rattle you. Well, it's working, I said, voice cracking. Then let it, she said. Let it shake through you, then stand back up. You tougher than you think, girl. I smiled a little. Nadine always knew how to talk to me like a sister. After we hung up, I went to the closet and pulled out a box I hadn't opened in years, my late husband's things. Inside was an old photo album, his watch, and his service revolver. He'd been a security guard for 30 years, kept that gun polished like it was gold. I ain't touched it in a decade. But that night, I cleaned it, loaded it, and set it by my bed. Just in case. Around 7, I heard a knock on the door. My stomach dropped. 3 knocks. Slow. Deliberate. I looked through the peephole, it was Tasha. I opened the door quick and pulled her inside. Girl, where you been? You scared me half to death. She looked pale, wet from the rain. Mama, I been driving around. He's mad, real mad. Said you messed up his deal, said you embarrassed him in front of his investors. Good, I said. He should be embarrassed. He's a crook. She shook her head. You don't get it. He's dangerous. He said he got people who don't play about money. I grabbed her shoulders. You mean he threatened you? She nodded, tears spilling. He said if we don't sign new papers, he'll make sure nobody in this family sleeps easy again. I stared at her, blood turning cold. And you believed him? I don't know what to believe, she cried. He knows where you live, Mama. He sent me a picture, you, in your car, said, tell your mama to back off. So that's how he got it. Through her. I closed my eyes, breathin' slow, fightin' the rage boilin' in my chest. Baby, I said softly, he usin' you to scare me. Don't let him win. She broke down, sobbin' into her hands. I didn't mean for this to go so far, Mama. I thought he was helping me. I thought he cared. Oh, he cared all right, I said. He cared about your signature, your desperation, your weakness. He saw your hurt and turned it into profit. We sat there in silence for a minute, just the sound of rain hitting the roof. Then I said, you stay here tonight. I don't want you going home. She looked up, eyes swollen. What about the kids? I'll call Donnell, I said. He'll keep 'em. You need rest. We both do. She nodded, too tired to argue. I made us some soup, the way my mama used to, slow, simple, something warm to remind us we still human. After dinner, she fell asleep on the couch, and I sat watching her. My little girl, grown now, but small again in her fear. I wanted to wrap her up, protect her from every bad choice she ever made, but I couldn't. Not anymore. Around midnight, thunder rolled hard enough to shake the windows. I got up to close the back door when I saw something glint near the fence, a shadow moving. Too big to be a cat. I froze. Then a sound, the crunch of wet leaves under a shoe. I turned off the lights, grabbed that old revolver, and crept to the curtain. Peered out slow. Nothing but rain. Still, something didn't feel right. That's when my phone buzzed again. This time, a text from a number labeled private. You think a piece of paper can stop me? My heart dropped. Then, 2 seconds later, another one. See you soon. I looked over at Tasha, sleeping on the couch, and I knew, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. Power. Fear. And for the first time since all this started, I realized, I wasn't scared of him no more. No, baby. I was mad. You ever get that feeling in your gut that says, don't you lose your cool yet? That's the voice that kept whispering to me all week. See, by now I'd cried, I'd prayed, I'd screamed into my pillow till my throat burned. But something in me, it changed. It wasn't sadness no more, it was that quiet kind of rage. The one that don't shout or break things. The one that watches. Plans. Waits. I stopped answering Derek's calls. Every voicemail he left, I'd just sit there listening to his voice trying to sound all gentle. Miss Carroll, I don't know what happened. I was just looking out for you. Looking out for me? Boy, please. I started pulling receipts. Every text, every message, every document Tasha had ever sent me about that loan, that man, that so-called opportunity. I printed him out, kept him in a folder under the couch cushion. I even started going through my bank statements, highlighting the withdrawals that matched his help. Then I called in a favor. See, my cousin Ray down in Jackson, he got a nephew that works IT security at one of them real estate offices. He ain't no crook, but he know how to check digital trails. I told him, baby, I need to know who been chooching my account. Who been moving my name without me knowing. Couple nights later, he sent me something that made my stomach turn cold. There it was, my name, my signature, on a document I never saw. Dated 3 months back. Co-signed by Tasha and Derek. That man had used my name to guarantee some shady property deal. A property he told me was for the family. And you know the worst part? Tasha's signature looked forced. The kind of signature you write when somebody's standing right over you. That's when I knew this wasn't just about money. This was control. So, I started playing my part. When Derek called again, I picked up. Hey, Derek, I said, real soft. I been thinking about what you said. Maybe I overreacted. He took the bait like a catfish. Oh, Miss Carroll, I'm glad to hear that. I really care about y'all. Maybe we could talk this over. I could swing by with some documents. Show you everything's legit. Ham, I said, stirring my tea slow. Why don't we do that? But not here. Let's meet at Tasha's place. Family should be together, right? I could hear him smilling through the phone. Absolutely. What he didn't know was that I'd already called Tasha earlier that day. Told her straight up, baby, you need to trust me on this one. Don't say nothing to him till I tell you. She sounded scared. Her voice was small again, like that little girl that used to hide behind my legs when thunder hit. Grandma, I don't wanna see him. I know, baby. But we can end this tonight. When that night came, I dressed in quiet colors, gray cardigan, no jewelry, no makeup. I wasn't trying to look strong. I wanted to look invisible. I got there early, sat in Tasha's living room with the lights low, just her and me and little Faith playing in the corner with her dolls. I told her, when he walk in, don't cry. Don't shout. Just let me handle it. She nodded, tears already shinning in her eyes. When that knock came, the air got tight. Tasha opened the door slow. And there he was, Derek, smelling like that same cologne he wore the night he came to my porch with them lies. Hey, sweetheart, he said, stepping in like he owned the place. Then he saw me sitting on the couch, folder in my lap. Oh, Miss Carol, I didn't know you'd be here tonight. I smiled. Ham. You said family should understand each other, right? So I figured we all talk it out. He shifted, trying to hide that flicker of guilt behind his charm. Of course. I brought some papers to clear things up. I leaned forward. You mean these? I laid the folder open, copies of the forged document, bank transfers, screenshots of messages. His face froze. I don't know what this is, he stammered, somebody must have. I cut him off. Don't insult me. You used my name, my trust, and my granddaughter. And you did it all with that same soft voice. The same voice that called me Miss Carol like I was your mama. He started sweating. Look, I was trying to help you'll get ahead. This was supposed to. No, I said, calm as still water. You were supposed to get rich. We were supposed to stay grateful. Tasha looked up, voice shaking. Derek, you lied to me. You told me Grandma didn't wanna help no more. You said she turned her back on us. He swallowed. Baby, listen. Don't call me that. Her voice cracked, but she stood tall. You made me sign papers I didn't understand. You said it was just for insurance. You said, she covered her mouth, tears spilling. I didn't touch her. I wanted her to see what strength felt like when it stood up straight. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I nodded toward the corner, and two figures stepped out from the hallway. My cousin Ray and his nephew, both holding their phones up, recording. Derek's eyes widened. What the hell is this? This, I said, is the part where the truth gets some air. He backed toward the door. You can't record me. Oh, we already did, Ray said. Everything. Even that little confession you just made about the papers. Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked from me to Tasha, to Faith now clutching her doll like she knew something bad was floating in the room. You should go, I said, my voice low. Before the police see this video before you do. He hesitated, breathed in hard, then turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. For a long time, nobody said nothing. The only sound was that little girl humming to herself, trying to block out the grown folks' silence. I looked at Tasha. You okay, baby? She nodded slow, like she didn't believe it yet. Grandma, how'd you even know? I smiled faintly. Because when somebody tries to break your family from the inside, you don't fight loud. You fight smart. I wanted to believe it was over. That he was gone for good. But later that night, when I got home and sat down with my tea, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. You think this is done, Miss Carol? You don't know who you're dealing with. My hand started to tremble, but not from fear. From fury. Because now I knew, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. You ever sit in the dark and hear your own house breathe? That night after the message came through, that's all I could hear. The creak in the hallway, the hum of the fridge, the sound of my own heartbeat sitting too close to my throat. I kept staring at that text. You don't know who you're dealing with. It wasn't just words, it was a threat wrapped in calm. That man thought fear would make me fold. I deleted the message, then sat back in my chair, looking out the window at the porch light. Somewhere deep in my bones, I felt my mama's voice say, baby, Some truths don't come gentle. They come to burn. The next morning, I went to Tasha's house. She hadn't slept much either, eyes puffy, hair pulled back in that loose bun she wore when she was overwhelmed. Faith was sitting at the table eating cereal, quiet for once. You could feel the storm hanging in the air. "Grandma," Tasha said softly, "I think he came by last night." My hands froze mid-air. "What you mean?" There was a car parked down the street. Lights off. Just sitting there. When I looked out again, it was gone. I clenched my jaw. "He's trying to scare you." She nodded, swallowing hard. "He's been texting me too. Saying he just wants to talk, that we made a mistake." I felt the heat rise in my chest. "Baby, people like him don't want to talk. They want control. And when they lose it, they act desperate." That's when I realized I needed more than receipts and screenshots. I needed to know why. Why did this man, this smooth talker who came into our lives like a friend, go through all that trouble? So I made some calls. Quiet calls. Back to that IT nephew of Ray's, and even to an old church friend who used to work down at the county clerk's office. And little by little, the puzzle started to move. Turns out, Derek wasn't just a smooth talker, he was a collector. Not of art. Not of houses. Of people. He'd been targeting older women who owned their homes, folks he met through church fundraisers and community investments. Used their names to back loans he knew would collapse. Then he'd flip the properties, vanish before anyone caught the trail. And me. I was next in line. My heart broke a little when I learned that. Not for me, but for how close I came to letting that man touch my peace. But then came the real sting, the cold poison. My church friend said, "Carol, you sure you wanna hear this part?" I said, "I done come this far, baby. Tell me all of it." She took a breath. "One of the property files linked to your name, it wasn't Derek who filed it first. It was someone who had access to your signature records. Someone who already knew your details." My stomach dropped. "Who?" There was silence on the line. Then she said a name I wasn't expecting. "Tasha's Mima." I couldn't breathe for a second. "You mean Marlene?" "Yeah. She used to work over in document processing for the loan office. That's how your info got out." "I'm sorry, Carol." The room felt heavy, like the air was full of ash. I hung up slow, staring at my hands like they didn't belong to me. Now, Marlene, Lord, that woman been trouble since the day I met her. My son's ex-wife, Tasha's mother. Always had a chip on her shoulder, like life owed her something. We hadn't spoken in years after she left my son and disappeared. And now she was back in my story, dragged in her dirt through my family again. When I told Tasha, she just stared at me. "That can't be true." "I wish it wasn't," I said. "But I got the proof." She covered her face. She called me last month. Said she was sorry. Said she wanted to help me and Faith. Oh my God. I leaned forward, tucking her hand. "Baby, she wasn't helping. She was setting you up. Probably thought Derek could finish what she started." Tasha's eyes filled. "Grandma, how could my own mama do that?" I sighed. Some folks lose their soul long before they lose their mind. For the next few days, I moved quiet. Didn't tell nobody what I knew, not even Ray. I needed to be sure. Needed to see her with my own eyes. So I went down to that old strip on Madison, where Marlene used to hang out years ago. There's a coffee spot there, cheap, loud, full of people who mind their business. And there she was, sitting by the window in a bright red coat, laughing like she didn't have ghosts following her every step. She saw me walk in and froze, her smile falling right off her face. "Well, if it ain't the holy grandma herself," she said. "I was wondering when you'd show up." I pulled out the chair across from her. "You got nerve saying that to me." She shrugged, picking at her nails. "I just did what I had to do. Ain't like you was ever gonna share that house. You sitting on all that equity while the rest of us struggling. I stared at her, disbelief mixing with disgust. "You sold your own daughter's name. Used my signature like a coupon. You know how sick that is." Marlene smirked. "Girl, please. Tasha got herself in this. Derek came to me first. Said he wanted to help her out. I figured, why not? I told him where to find you. Rest was business. I leaned back, my voice dropping. Business? You call ruining your own child's life business? She rolled her eyes. Don't act high and mighty, Carol. You think you better than me 'cause you got a house, some savings, a clean name. Truth is, you just played the game longer. I played it faster. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw emptiness behind them eyes. Not evil. Just hollowness. Like a person who'd been eaten up by her own greed and shame. You need help, Marlene, I said quietly. But I ain't the one who can give it to you. She smirked again. You still talking like you holding the cards. But Derek. He don't let things go. You better watch your back, old lady. And just like that, she stood, tossed a few crumpled bills on the table, and walked out, that red coat flashing like a warning light in my mind. I sat there for a long time after she left. The waitress came by twice. I didn't touch my coffee. I just kept hearing her words, watch your back. By the time I got home, dusk had fallen. I parked, climbed the porch steps slow. The street was quiet. Too quiet. When I reached my door, I noticed something that stopped me cold, a single white envelope sitting on my welcome mat. No name. No return address. I bent down, picked it up. Inside was a photo. Me, Tasha, and Faith, sitting on that same porch, just last summer. Across the bottom, in black ink. Family should stay close. My knees almost gave out. I looked around, the streetlights flickering, wind rustling the trees, but no one was there. That's when I realized, this wasn't over. The poison was still spreading. And next time, it might not come as a message or a knock. It might come as a face I trusted too much. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that envelope showed up. Every sound in the house felt like it meant something. The pipes knocking, the wind pushing against the windows, the faint creak in the hallway, it all sounded like a warning. You live long enough, you learn that fear don't always shout. Sometimes it just sits with you, quiet and patient, like a shadow that don't blink. That Monday morning, I made up my mind. I wasn't gonna wait for another message or threat or visit. I was taking back my peace, one way or another. I put on my old church coat, the one with the loose button, and tucked that white envelope inside. Then I called Ray. Told him, meet me at the precinct. I got something that needs daylight. He didn't ask questions, just said, I'm on my way, Auntie. When I walked in, the young officer at the desk looked up polite. Can I help you, Yes, baby, I said. I'm here to talk about fraud, forgery, and a man who don't know when to quit. The man blinked like he didn't expect me to say that before his first coffee. But after I pulled out that folder, the one thick with copies and screenshots, he started paying attention real fast. Ray joined me a few minutes later, breathing heavy from the cold. You sure about this, Auntie? Once this starts, it ain't no turning back. I looked at him and said, Ray, this train already left the station. I'm just laying the tracks. They took my statement. I told them about Derek, the fake contracts, my forged signature, the threats. Gave them the photo and the messages. And before I left, I made sure they logged every single piece of paper. The officer, bless his heart, said, we'll open an investigation immediately. You did the right thing. But deep down, I knew better than to trust the system to move fast. Justice got old legs sometimes. So I made a few moves of my own. That night, I called Tasha. Baby, pack a bag. You and Faith come stay with me for a while. She didn't argue. She sounded tired, like somebody who'd been carrying more than her share for too long. When they showed up, I hugged them both long enough for Faith to squirm away giggling. But even that laughter couldn't shake the chill in my chest. The next few days were quiet, almost peaceful. We cooked, watched old movies, tried to pretend like normal was still possible. But every time a car slowed outside, Tasha would flinch. Every time the phone rang, I'd glance at the window. Then came Thursday. It was late afternoon. I was in the kitchen marking cornbread when Ray called. Auntie, you might wanna sit down. What is it? They found something on Derek. Looks like he's been working with a couple other folks, names I ain't seen before. But one of 'em been using your address to register a business. My stomach dropped. My address? Yeah. Called it Faith Investments, LLC. Sound familiar? I gripped the counter so tight my knuckles hurt. That was my great-grandbaby's name. My Faith. That man had used her name. My house. My legacy. Something in me went still, that heavy stillness that come before a storm breaks. I hung up, went straight to my drawer, pulled out my little box of keepsakes. Inside was my late husband's old recorder. He used to use it for sermons. I charged it, clicked it on, and whispered to myself, if the truth can bring fire, then let it burn. That night, I called Derek from a blocked number. When he answered, I could hear that slick tone again, the one that always sounded too calm. "Well, Miss Carroll," he said, "I was wondering when you'd reach out." "You been busy," I said softly. "I'm always busy. You know how it is. Ham. Busy using my name, my house, and my blood for business." There was a pause. "Now, where'd you hear that?" I let out a dry laugh. "Oh, you know how it is. The Lord got a funny way of letting the truth leak out." He sighed, fake and tired. "Miss Carroll, you don't understand how deep this goes. You step back now, you might still walk away safe." Safe. The way he said it made my skin crawl. "I ain't steppin' nowhere," I said. "You brought this poison to my family. Now I'ma make sure you drink it yourself." Then I hung up. I played that recording 3 times, making sure every word came out clear. By morning, I sent it straight to the detective's email, copied Ray, and attached every file I had. By noon, my phone lit up, number I didn't recognize. "This Detective Harris. We received your materials. We just brought Mr. Derek in for questioning." My knees nearly gave. "You got him?" "Yes, And you might wanna sit tight. He's not the only one we'll be speaking to." I thanked him, ended the call, and just sat there, breathin', shaking, pryin'. But peace don't come that easy. That night, there was a knock on my door. Slow. 3 taps. Tasha looked at me, fear written all over her face. "Grandma, you don't think." "Stay with Faith," I said. I opened the door just enough to see the porch. It wasn't Derek. It was Marlene. Her red coat was gone. She looked smaller, tired. Like life had finally come collectin'. "Carol," she said, voice raspy. "They looking for me. Said they got questions 'bout them papers." I stared, unblinking. "Good. Maybe you can answer some." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "He promised me it was clean. That nobody'd get hurt." "Somebody did get hurt," I said. "You just didn't see the blood 'cause it wasn't yours." She looked down, tears falling fast. "He's dangerous, Carol. You don't know what he—" "I know enough," I cut her off. "Now if you got any ounce of decency left in you, you walk yourself down to that station and tell 'em everything you know." She nodded, slow and broken. "I will. I wanted to tell you I'm sorry." I didn't say nothing. Just watched her walk off into the dark. When the door shut behind her, I leaned against it, eyes closed. For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight start to shift, not gone, but moving. Like judgment was finally coming to balance the scales. Next morning, I got the call. The detective said, "We've confirmed multiple counts of fraud and coercion tied to Mr. Derek's group. He's being held without bail." I whispered, "Thank you." But after I hung up, I didn't feel joy. I felt hollow. Like something had been carved out. Tasha came in from the porch, holding Faith in her arms. "It's over, Grandma," she said softly. I looked at her, that sweet girl who'd seen too much too soon. "Baby," I said, "evil don't just stop 'cause they lock it up. It lingers. It tests the walls." She frowned. "What you mean?" I turned my gaze to the window, where sunlight was just starting to rise. "I mean, every story got a judgment day. And sometimes, the hardest one is the one we give ourselves." The house went quiet again. That heavy kind of quiet that only comes before the next truth shows up. And deep down, I knew. This family wasn't done paying yet. You know, when the truth finally comes out, it don't roar like a lion. It just sits there. Quiet. Heavy. Like something that's been waiting years to breathe. That night, after everything, after the police cars left, after the neighbors went quiet, after the last of the questions and the pity stares, I sat in my living room. Same chair I'd always sit in, same lamp glowing low. But everything felt wrong. That house didn't hum no more. It used to have a rhythm, the clock tickin', the fridge hummin', that old wood popping when the heater kicked in. But that night, it was all still. Like even the walls knew what had happened. I looked down at my hands. Same hands that raised 2 daughters, buried 1 husband, built a home from scratch. But now, they looked like strangers. My granddaughter, bless her little soul, she was sitting on the floor next to me, drawing with those colored pencils I bought her last Christmas. I remember she looked up and said, "Grandma, are you mad at me?" And Lord, that question broke me in half. Because how could I ever be mad at the one person who tried to save me? The only one who saw the danger for what it was when I was too deep in love and denial to see clear. I leaned down, took her little face in my hands, and I said, "Baby, you did nothing wrong. You did everything right." She looked like she wanted to believe me, but she was still scared, not of me, but of what we all went through. She'd seen things no child should see. Heard things no heart that pure should have to hear. I told her, one day, when you're older, you'll understand that sometimes love can look like safety but feel like fear. And when it does, that's when you gotta listen to that little voice inside you. She nodded, eyes glistening, and she said, "Like I did." "Yes," I said, holding her tight. "Just like you did." The weeks after that were quiet. Too quiet, maybe. Folks stopped by with casseroles and sympathy. My pastor came to pray. My oldest daughter called more than she used to. But me, I didn't want pity. I wanted peace. For a long time, I blamed myself. I kept replaying every red flag I ignored, every time I brushed off the unease in my chest. I kept thinking how I let someone walk into my life, my home, my family, and poison it from the inside. But then one morning, I woke up and realized something: forgiveness ain't for them. It's for you. It's so your spirit can breathe again. I didn't forgive because he deserved it. I forgave because I couldn't carry that hate another day. That hate don't rot them, it rots you. So I started small. Opened my windows again. Let the air in. Cooked Sunday breakfast like I used to. Even went back to church, though I sat way in the back. Every Sunday, the choir would sing that song, "His Eye is on the Sparrow." And the first few times, I couldn't even open my mouth. But one day, without thinking, I started humming along. Quiet at first. Then louder. And before I knew it, I was singing again. I think that's when I knew I was gonna be alright. A few months later, my granddaughter came running through the door with a school paper clutched in her hand. "Grandma, I wrote a story about you." I smiled, pretended not to tear up as I took it from her. It said, "My grandma is the bravest person I know. She listens to whispers nobody else hears. And she makes people safe again." Lord, I had to put that paper down and just breathe. Because all that pain, all that fear, all those sleepless nights, it all led to this moment. Her smilin', me breathin', and peace sitting in that same old living room again. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear echoes. Not voices, exactly, just memories. The sound of betrayal, the tone of lies, the softness of manipulation. It all tries to creep back in, whispering that maybe I was too foolish, too trusting, too late. But then I remember that little girl's whisper that started it all. "Grandma, don't go home tonight." And I realize, she didn't just save me from a man. She saved me from losing myself. Now, when I tell this story, I don't do it for sympathy. I do it so maybe, just maybe, another woman out there hears it and stops before it's too late. Maybe she listens to her own whisper, her own warning, her own child's voice. Because the truth is, the danger don't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it wears a smile and says, "I love you." So, if you're listening right now, please, don't ignore your whisper. Don't hush your gut. Don't doubt what your heart's trying to tell you. And if this story touched you, if it felt too close to home, don't go nowhere. Stay with me. Like, subscribe, and share this story with somebody who needs to hear it. Because maybe, just maybe, your whisper could save somebody too.